Welcome to Coding, your weekly dive into the latest news and stories shaping the world of cybersecurity. Our mission here is simple, really. Bring you the most critical insights from recent events, help you stay not just informed, but genuinely secure. Today, we're going to tackle quite a range. We've got massive data leaks, critical software vulnerabilities, and even a fascinating look at how law enforcement is pushing back against some pretty notorious cybercrime gangs. We'll also touch on some nation-state activity that should probably make us all think a little more about our online habits. Joining me is our expert.
Yeah, it's certainly been a busy time. And what's really striking, I think, is how interconnected these seemingly separate incidents truly are. We'll try and connect the dots for you and, talk about what these developments really mean for your digital safety.
That's a perfect way to put it. Okay, let's unpack this first one, a story from Australia that really highlights how quickly a, quote, limited incident can become anything but. An Australian telecom provider, TPG Telecom, specifically their iNet sub-brand, had a cyber attack.
Right.
Now, they called it limited, but judging by the numbers, that word needs some serious air quotes.
What kind of numbers are we talking?
Well, 280,000 active iNet email addresses, around 20,000 active landline phone numbers, 10,000 iNet usernames, street addresses, phone numbers, and even 1,700 modem setup passwords were stolen.
Wow. Okay. That's not exactly limited.
Not really. And how did it happen? Stolen employee account credentials used to access an internal order management system. Simple as that, apparently.
The classic entry point.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Now, they did reassure everyone that no identity documents, credit card, or banking info was leaked directly.
Okay. That's something, at least.
But it still leaves you wondering, what does this actually mean for the affected people and, for you listening, thinking about your own data?
Well, this raises that important question about how we define limited in cybersecurity, doesn't it? Because while direct financial data might be safe for now, that sheer volume of personal detail, emails, phone numbers, addresses, it creates this perfect storm for attackers.
Yes, sir.
Think highly convincing phishing emails, targeted voice scams phishing, they call it, and with those modem passwords, potentially deploying malware or ransomware directly onto home networks.
Right, vulnerabilities in the modem itself.
Exactly. So this isn't just an inconvenience. It can lead directly to identity theft, maybe even wire fraud down the line. It's a prime example of how seemingly basic personal information, when you combine it, becomes a really powerful tool for attackers.
It's sobering.
Yeah.
And it feels like these kinds of basic credential thefts or system access issues pop up again and again.
They do. And what's fascinating, or maybe worrying, is how common these seemingly simple vulnerabilities can be, even at major tech companies. We saw a really similar scenario unfold recently at Intel. A security researcher, Eaton Z, uncovered flaws on their internal sites.
Intel, wow.
Yeah, flaws that expose the personal details of all 270,000 of their employees.
Good grief. How did that happen?
Well, Eaton found a business card portal, something employees used, had a login system you could basically just walk past, manipulate how it checked users. That let him download this massive gigabyte file with names, roles, managers, addresses, phone numbers, the works.
Unbelievable.
And it wasn't just that one portal. Other internal sites like product hierarchy and product onboarding had hard-coded credentials just sitting there, easily decrypted. Even a corporate login page could be bypassed.
So it wasn't just one mistake.
No, it points to potentially broader issues in just fundamental application design. It really underscores that, complex firewalls aren't always enough. Sometimes it's the basic stuff.
And fundamentals.
Precisely. Intel fixed them quickly, to their credit, but it's a reminder that vulnerabilities aren't always these super exotic, complex things. They can be surprisingly basic oversights.
Okay, so from individual user data and company systems, let's shift gears a bit.
Yeah.
This next one gets really interesting, especially if you're a developer or, frankly, just someone who uses computers. The U.S. Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency, CISA, has put out a pretty significant warning about a high-severity flaw in Git.
Ah, yes, Git foundational stuff.
Absolutely. For anyone maybe not deep in the code, Git is like the standard version control system. Developers use it everywhere. GitHub, GitLab, big projects like Linux, Android. It's everywhere.
Underpins so much.
It really does. And this flaw, CVE 2025-48384, it sounds kind of technical, but the impact is huge. It's a bug in how Git handles carriage return characters.
Those tricky, invisible characters.
Exactly. And this seemingly minor parsing error can trick the system into setting up a software repository in the wrong place, which ultimately lets an attacker run their own malicious code.
Right, which is remote code execution, essentially.
Yeah.
Very serious.
Very. And CISA adding it to their Known Exploited Vulnerabilities catalog, the KB list, means it's not theoretical. It's actively being used in real-world attacks right now.
That's the key indicator. Once it's on the KV, it's game on.
Federal agencies have until September 15th to patch, and CISA is basically saying the rest of us should follow suit like yesterday.
Absolutely. This raises that crucial question. What can individuals and organizations actually do when such a fundamental tool is found to be flawed?
What are the options?
Well, the good news is Git released patches back in July. So updating to the latest versions like 2.43.7 or 2.5.1 is the #1 priority. That closes the door.
Okay, so patching is key. But what if you can't patch immediately for some reason?
Right, sometimes that's tricky. CISA does suggest mitigations, things like avoid recursively cloning submodules from untrusted sources, basically. Don't pull in code you don't trust. You can also disable Git hooks globally, which are scripts that run automatically, and enforce using only audited submodules. It's about reducing the attack surface if you can't patch right away.
Makes sense. It's layers of defense.
Exactly. Now, shifting from developer tools to something maybe more universally used, password management. There's big news from Dropbox.
Ah, yes, they're shutting down their password manager service.
They are, and the deadlines are coming up fast, like really fast.
Okay, lay it out for us. What do people need to know?
Right. So, first deadline, August 28th, 2025, that's this week. Autofill gets disabled. You can't add new passwords or edit existing ones. You can still export your data, though, crucially.
Okay, export's still possible then. Good.
Then, September 11th, 2025. The mobile app shuts down entirely. You can still use the browser extension for a bit longer.
Right.
But the final date is October 28th, 2025. That's when the browser extension also shuts down, and perhaps more importantly, all accounts and passwords will be permanently deleted. Gone.
Wow. Permanently deleted, so no wiggle room there.
None. If you use Dropbox passwords, you absolutely must export your stored credentials before October 28th. Otherwise, you risk losing them forever.
And that applies to business users too.
Yes, critically, it's not just personal accounts. If your business uses it, each employee needs to export their own vault. It's an individual action.
That's a significant transition for potentially a lot of people. What does this move, and similar moves by others like Microsoft Authenticator or Deutsche Bank, pulling back from integrated password solutions, tell us?
It's really interesting, isn't it? It highlights this shift, I think, towards dedicated cybersecurity tools becoming more vital. Relying on a feature that's just bolted onto a broader service, well, it can leave you vulnerable when that company decides to change strategy, like Dropbox is doing now.
So convenience versus dedicated function.
Pretty much. A standalone, dedicated password manager is built just for that job. Often means more robust features, better support across different devices, and, a clearer idea that they're sticking around for the long haul.
Right. It's maybe a nudge for users to take a bit more direct control over these critical security tools.
Exactly. Take ownership rather than relying on a bundled feature that might disappear.
Okay, let's widen the lens again. We're moving into the realm of bigger players now, nation states, major ransomware groups. Google has put out a pretty stark warning about a sophisticated Chinese state-sponsored hacking attack. It's targeting diplomats and other entities globally, and it's happening in real time.
Yeah, this is serious stuff. The technique Google's threat analysis group observed is pretty clever, actually. It's called a captive portal hijack attack.
Captive portal, like those login pages at airports or coffee shops?
Exactly like those. The attackers compromise network edge devices for firewalls, routers at the target organizations. Then, when someone tried to connect, they hijacked that familiar login portal and redirected them to a fake Adobe update site.
Ah, the classic fake update ploy.
And classic for a reason. These updates weren't updates at all, of course. They deployed malware, specifically things called Canon Stager and Soju SCC. These are basically sophisticated backdoors, giving the attackers persistent, ongoing access to the victim's computer.
Wow. And do we know who's behind it?
Google attributes it to a group they track as UNC 6384, which they believe has links to another known group, Silk Typhoon. These are names associated with Chinese state-sponsored cyber espionage activities.
And Google saw this happening back in March.
Yeah, observed it and sent out alerts. It's a really stark reminder of who's out there, the level of sophistication, and how they operate, often targeting that initial network entry point.
It really is. And it makes you think, if state-sponsored groups are doing this, what chance does the average person or even a smaller organization have?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? It emphasizes extreme vigilance, especially on networks you don't control, like public Wi-Fi. Always be suspicious of unexpected update prompts, particularly if the context feels weird. And of course, keep everything patched.
Basic hygiene still matters, even against sophisticated threats.
Absolutely. And while China denies these sorts of accusations, the reality for defenders is clear. The tactics are evolving, and you need that kind of threat intelligence sharing that Google provided to even stand a chance of spotting these things.
Okay. Let's bring it a bit closer to home, geographically speaking. The state government of Nevada recently had a bit of a situation. They had to close offices, take websites and phone lines offline. They called it a network security incident.
Mm-hmm. Careful phrasing.
Right. It wasn't officially called a cyber attack, but it has all the hallmarks of ransomware, doesn't it?
It certainly smells like it. When critical services go dark like that, and the official line is investigation ongoing, no evidence PII compromised yet, ransomware is usually suspect number one.
And who typically goes after state governments like this? Is it usually nation-states or someone else?
Historically, for state and local governments, it tends to be financially motivated criminal gangs. Groups like Lockbit, Black Cattle PHV, maybe Royal. Their goal is disruption to force a ransom payment. It impacts public services, creates pressure, less often state-sponsored espionage in these cases.
Right, different motives. But it's not all bad news on the cybercrime front, is it? There's been a significant win for law enforcement recently.
Yes, absolutely. A really notable development against one of the more infamous groups out there, Scattered Spider. For the first time, a member, Noah Michael Urban, who went by aliases like King Bob, apparently has been sentenced 10 years in prison.
King Bob, okay. What did he do?
He pleaded guilty to wire fraud, aggravated identity theft, essentially stealing cryptocurrency from at least 59 victims using really sophisticated SIM swap attacks.
Ah, SIM swapping. Nasty stuff.
Very. He also has to forfeit about $4.8 million in assets and pay around $13 million in restitution. It's a major conviction, sending a message that these operators aren't completely untouchable.
That does sound like a solid win. A 10-year sentence is significant. But Scattered Spider as a group, are they done? Is this the end of them?
Well, that's the fascinating and slightly worrying part. Despite this sentencing and charges against 4 other alleged members, the FBI and CISA put out a warning less than a month ago saying Scattered Spider is still active.
Seriously, even with key members locked up or charged.
Yep. And they're evolving. Their tactics are getting even more advanced. They're doubling down on social engineering, like impersonating employees to trick IT help desks into resetting passwords or transferring MFA tokens to devices the attackers control.
Oh, preying on the human element again.
Always. And they've added new tools to their kit. Malware like Ratty Rat for stealthier access, and something called Dragonforce ransomware, which specifically targets VMware ESXi servers that's common in corporate data centers.
So taking down one member, even a key one, doesn't necessarily stop the whole operation.
It seems not. It's that constant cat and mouse game. Law enforcement makes progress, the group adapts, refines its methods, maybe recruits new members. The threat continues.
Wow, okay. What a range we've covered today. It's been quite the week. We went from internal system flaws exposing hundreds of thousands at Intel and TPG Telecom
The basics mattering.
to CISA warnings about Git affecting developers everywhere and that urgent Dropbox passwords shutdown needing action right now.
Yeah, real practical takeaways there.
And then, yeah, the bigger picture. Sophisticated state-sponsored attacks, the ongoing ransomware threat shown in Nevada, and this back and forth with groups like Scattered Spider. Law enforcement wins, but the threat evolves.
It really does.
It's just such a constant reminder that this digital world is always shifting. And staying informed really feels like your best defense, doesn't it?
It truly does. And if you connect all these dots, the common thread seems to be human interaction and just basic digital hygiene. Whether it's an employee credential getting stolen, someone delaying a critical patch, or falling for a really well-crafted phishing scam, our actions, or sometimes our inactions, play such a huge role.
That's a really good point.
So maybe this raises an important question for you listening right now. How often do you actually review your own digital footprint? Are you actively taking these lessons, like maybe finally switching to a dedicated password manager, or being more skeptical of unexpected logins and applying them? Because it's not just about hearing the news, right? It's about actually using that knowledge to protect yourself.
That is a powerful thought to end on. A great call to action. Thank you for joining us on Coding. We really hope this deep dive has given you some valuable insights, maybe some concrete steps you can take in your own digital life. Stay safe out there, everyone, and we'll be back next week with more essential cybersecurity stories.